Good afternoon, ghouls and goblins, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Sip Shmoke Paranormal Podcast. I'm Sip.
And I'm Shmoke, and we'll be your guides
Through the paranormal,
cryptids, and everything in between. So what are we talking about today?
So today's episode is going to be the true story behind The Exorcist.
Okay.
Right? There was a little movie back in the 70s, I only think like 10 people saw it. The Exorcist,
Gotcha. I think I've heard of it.
Right. Little girl got possessed by the devil, demons, whatever.
Right. Yeah. She crawled down the stairs.
Right.
Yeah. Creepy as shit.
Yeah. In the movie, it was a 13-year-old girl named Reagan, which it was good for movie, but is not the case at all. The real life story, we're actually going to start in 1935 when. So in all the stories and everything, the boy, his name was never given. He was always given a pseudonym. Some sources call him Roland Doe. Other sources call him Robbie Mannheim. A lot of places just refer to him as R. R. Yeah. Doing the research, I saw the letter R so much.
Codename R.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm going to call him Robbie for the sake of this, just so we're all on the same page. Robbie is the boy in this.
And it's not a girl.
Right, no, it's not a girl. It was a boy. He was born in 1935. He was born to a German Lutheran family, so there's a little bit of discrepancies over where he was actually born. Either way...
He's a German boy?
German Lutheran family.
Is he a German boy?
Well, I think the family was just German Lutheran religion. I believe German Lutheran is just their religious standing. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure if it's like German Lutheran one thing, like if German Lutheran is the religion, or if they're of German descent and they just happen to be Lutheran. I'm not exactly sure. I just know.
That's what I
Yeah, all the sources specifically stated they were a German Lutheran family.
Fair enough. We'll put the Google of German Lutheran up on the screen. We got
you. He was born to... his parents also got pseudonyms. Carl and Phyllis Mannheim is what they were referred to in the few sources where they were actually given any name. It was Carl and Phyllis Mannheim.
Love a good Phyllis.
Phyllis is such an old lady name.
Yeah.
I don't think in my life I've ever met a young Phyllis.
I feel they're just born old.
Right, they're born, needing a walker. Like it's
come out of the womb with the walker with the tennis balls already on.
Right, they pop out holding the tennis balls. Like here you go. Mm-hmm. Robbie was born in 1935. A little bit of discrepancy as far as where exactly he was born. Okay. Either way, he was born in Prince George County, Maryland, which is local.
That's where I'm born and raised.
Right, our own Shmoke, born, raised, PG County.
Don't tell anybody that.
Some sources state that he was born in Mount Rainier, which is a little closer to DC, but still like right on the border of PG County and DC. And other sources say that he was born in Cottage City, which I don't know the exact distance, but they're pretty close together.
Close. Yeah, I actually deliver there.
Okay, yeah, perfect. He was born. He had a pretty normal childhood.
For 1935.
Yeah, normal for 1935.
Right. No smartphones. What does that even entail? Is that wooden rocking horses? Is that what you get for Christmas?
Pretty much.
That's your big gift?
There was a lot of religion. Religion was a big deal in the family.
Okay, so you get a Bible for Christmas.
Yes, they get Bibles. But I mean, for the time, it was a pretty typical upbringing. Nothing crazy or out of the norm to really report from his early life, up until about 13 years old.
Okay. Puberty.
About that, yeah.
Okay, so he's like an X-Man.
Well, no, not even slightly. So Robbie had an aunt that he was very close with. The reports refer to her as Aunt Harriet. Now again, pseudonym. All of their identities were pretty covered up.
Okay.
So Aunt Harriet lived in St. Louis.
Okay.
But she would visit a lot, and Robbie and Aunt Harriet were very close. Now Aunt Harriet wasn't quite the good German Lutheran girl that the rest of the family was. So Aunt Harriet actually taught Robbie how to use a Ouija board.
Ooh.
And that's one of the things that they would do together.
Family bonding.
Yeah, and Robbie loved it. Robbie, he was, I feel like he was very, I don't want to say sheltered, but it was a very controlled. No, that still makes it sound bad, but it was a very by the book upbringing. I mean, the capital book.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Do you think back in those days it was a Milton Bradley kind of board? I mean, Milton Bradley goes back quite a while, right?
It does.
Or was it, they making their own kind of boards back in the day?
I didn't actually see any information on that, but I also didn't think to look that up. Maybe at this point, if I can find it, I'll insert some images onto the screen. The Ouija boards of the time.
Editing magic.
So yeah, her and Robbie were super close.
Okay. So we traveled lots.
She traveled.
She came down to them.
Yeah, she traveled from St. Louis to Maryland quite a bit.
Okay.
They were, surprisingly, because of how strictly religious the Mannheims were, they were very, very close, even though she was decidedly not.
Okay.
So fast forward about 14 years, I'm sorry, to 1949. January in 1949, the Mannheim household completely turned on its head. So they got, it started off with just little sounds. The first sound that they reported was just a sound of dripping water.
Ooh.
That was coming from, specifically from Robbie's room.
Was that what when they visited? Was the water actually dripping?
No, there was no
water
source,
whatsoever.
right?
Okay.
I mean, obviously there were, pipes in the walls. They had their water pipes in their house, but none of the water was turned on. There was no reason for the sound of dripping water to be permeating the room like it was. Started with the dripping water. At one point, they had a picture of Jesus Christ that was up on their wall. Jesus, can I call him Jesus Christ? Is that okay?
Can I get an amen?
They had a portrait of Jesus on the wall that it would start shaking, just shaking on the wall, but it would only happen when Robbie was walking by. And I mean, he wasn't a giant,
Right.
he was a normal child, so it's not like his
13,
footsteps. Yeah, 13, 14 in that area. So the dripping water, the portrait of Jesus started shaking. And actually, about 2 weeks after all this stuff started, Aunt Harriet passed.
Oh.
I don't have a cause of death, but...
Yeah, they didn't do those back then.
No. Who needs an autopsy in
Cause of
1935,
death.
49? Yeah. Her heart stopped.
Right.
She became incompatible with life. So this was about 2 weeks after all of the strange things, the dripping water, the shaking Jesus picture.
2 weeks later, after that started, she died.
Yeah, after the sounds and the shaking started is when Aunt Harriet passed.
Okay.
So
we can eliminate her.
Yeah, she was not the culprit.
Okay.
Well, at least not initially. We are a paranormal channel. We do believe in spirits in this house. Robbie thought that it would behoove him to try to contact her through the Ouija board.
Classic.
Of course. but they were very close. Her death affected him a lot. You know, he was really, really torn up about it. So he thought, hey, I'll try and talk to her some more. I'll see if she's still around. What have you. But that's when things started to really ramp up in the house. Okay, after he started using the Ouija board by himself, which, note to the viewer, never use a Ouija board by yourself. Okay, you use Ouija boards all you want. I use them myself. I use spirit boards. There's the difference. We'll cover that in another episode. We'll probably do an episode on Ouija boards sometime in the future because we could do a whole mini-series just on Ouija board experiences.
I'll put it in my planner.
But never use it by yourself. That is a very, very dangerous thing to do.
Very good advice.
And that's exactly what Robbie Mannheim was doing. He attempted to contact her, and he did make contact with something. I know the movie referred to the spirit as Captain Howdy. I always thought that was one of the legitimate parts, but it wasn't. There was never any report of an actual name from whatever he was talking to.
Not even the priests?
Not even the priests,
okay.
Which we're going to get into the priests in a minute, but the priests obviously play a huge deal. And one of the priests, he actually he kept diary the entire time. And there's actually excerpts from his diary that got published.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so that is where a lot of the information comes from. But that being said, even his diary entries were heavily redacted, which is why the identities and everything are still so tight-lipped, as it were. So after Robbie started using the Ouija board, things took a massive, massive turn for the worse in the house. They had a family Bible that would just take off. It would just soar through the air.
Not Robbie's Christmas
At
gift.
random times. Well, almost every time it soared through the air, it landed at Robbie's feet.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Read me right now!
Everything surrounded Robbie. Everything that happened was always around him.
So the parents never had any close
they
encounters.
experienced things when they were also around him, but everything centered on Robbie. The dripping sound started in his room. The picture of Jesus would shake when he walked by it.
But if Robbie had a slumber party, it was quiet.
Well, I don't think slumber parties were really a thing at the moment. Number one, they were highly religious. Number two, they had just had a death in the family. Number three, they were having some weird shit go on.
All the more reason to get a kid out of the house.
Well, people like us, yes. I don't think a very devout Lutheran family is going to be celebrating these things quite like we would. So the family Bible would fly across the room, always landing at Robbie's feet. There was an armchair in the living room of the house that Robbie liked to sit in. It was his favorite chair, and when he was sitting in the chair, it would topple. Just out of the blue, the chair would fall over. Sometimes it was more like it was picked up and thrown while he was sitting in it.
Was this a heavy chair?
I don't know the exact make and model. I don't think it was a Lazy Boy.
Okay.
But,
Confirmed.
And at one point, after Robbie got out of the chair actually started spinning like a top. It kind of tilted up on one leg and just started spinning.
Wow.
And it was, nobody was sitting in it, nobody was near it. Robbie had just gotten up and walked away, and it just started going. Eventually, things continued to ramp. When Robbie was trying to go to bed, his bed frame would actually slide across the floor. It started vibrating very, very violently, almost like his bed itself was having a seizure. It was just crazy things. And while he was asleep, in his sleep, Robbie would started to yell obscenities. Again, I don't have any specifics. I don't know if it was quite as in depth or as intense as it was in the movie, but it was reported as he would be fast asleep and he just started screaming obscenities.
And being a religious household, he probably didn't hear a lot of obscenities.
Right. I mean, obviously, he did have friends outside of the home, but, you're right. It's not like things like that were being said a lot at home. But this was also 1935, and I feel like, or 49, I'm sorry. And I feel like things were a lot different back then, so who knows? They could have, times were very, very different.
Right. Jack's got competitive.
Yeah, very. Fuck you, that's my Jack. So, it was at this point that Robbie's entire personality switched. I mean, he just completely flipped, did a 180. He, for the first 14 years of his life, he was a, perfectly behaved boy, followed the scripture, listened to his parents, everything like that. He was also commonly described as being timid. That was one of the words that came up a lot as a description. He was very timid. But he just totally flipped. He would start throwing these really violent temper tantrums, just outbursts of anger at seemingly nothing. Just, nothing would necessarily happen to cause it.
Didn't even have to stub a toe.
No toe. He didn't catch his pinky on the corner of the coffee table. He just flipped.
Pinky?
His pinky toe?
Oh, okay. You just said pinky.
Well,
I'm wondering how you...
I think they're smart enough to get context clues.
It's my fault.
Normally is.
No difference between a pinky and a pinky toe.
None whatsoever. So, of course, before looking into the possibility of a demonic possession or attachment, his parents tried to cross everything else off of the list that they could. They took him to doctors, they took him to psychiatrists. In 1949, you name the medical discipline, they took him there. And everything came back the same, that he was a perfectly healthy young boy. There was no medical reason for him to be behaving the way that he was.
Okay. So they did the due diligence.
They did. They very much did their due diligence.
Today, Junior.
Yeah, they really exhausted every possibility that they could before they took anything further. I don't think it was really an accepted thing. I think it was more of...
Does that faith even believe in the possibility?
I'm not sure. I don't actually know a whole lot about the Lutheran faith.
I'm making you look like a real D-bag, aren't I?
Well, I know it is that Lutheranism is an offshoot of Christianity. Just like Catholicism is an offshoot of Christianity. Why are you giving me that look?
I'm just waiting for you to finish here.
But, just like Catholics take communion where Christians don't, I don't know the exact practices of Lutherans.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, there you go. All right, am I making a complete ass out of myself here?
Let us know in the comments. I'll love it.
Is it very clear that I'm not a religious person? Is that
Heart
evident
react.
enough?
Is that a YouTube thing? Can I heart react your comment?
No, but we can and will reply to your comments.
With heart reacts.
Emojis even. So, yeah, they took Robbie to psychiatrists, medical doctors. Just, I would be surprised if they didn't take him to friggin' acupuncturists. Anything that they could have done to explain his behavior,
right.
They tried.
Naturally.
Got nothing. Excuse me. Eventually, they got in touch with a Reverend Edward Albert Hughes from St. James Catholic Church in Mount Rainier. So the Reverend ended up seeing Robbie. He came and talked to him and kind of got a lay of the land, so to speak. He gave the family a blessed candle and some holy water. Told them, just stay the course. Have faith, and things will be all right, I guess.
Okay. I'm convinced.
No.
Cut. End of story.
Come back next week.
Roll the credits. We're out. All right. Bring my Lamborghini.
No, unfortunately, that did not end very well. According to the pseudonymous Phyllis Mannheim, the bottle of holy water flew off of the table and smashed into a wall and just soaked into the floorboards at that point. And they lit the blessed candle, and they reported that the flame from the candle shot all the way up to the ceiling of their house. It
Did it set fire? Or
it didn't set fire to anything.
Fireball, or-
It's just that no, it was the actual flame from the candle. It just shot up and stayed.
Oh, okay.
Like the flame grew, essentially to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's like some Super Mario shit.
Right. It really did not work very well. So of course the family called Reverend Hughes back. Said, "Hey,
Problem.
yeah, we need a little bit more help here." Things weren't going very well. So Reverend Hughes came back to the house, and as soon as he walked into Robbie's bedroom, Robbie said in perfect Latin, which is a language that should be noted that Robbie never studied. 1949, and he's a 14-year-old boy. It's not like he had a whole lot of opportunities.
No extra credits, no
Right.
mandatory.
So Reverend Hughes walked in, and Robbie said in perfect Latin, "O priest of Christ, you know that I am the devil. Why do you keep bothering me?" And this was reported by Reverend Hughes.
This was in the diary?
No, I don't believe it was Hughes's diary. I have it in my notes. I want to say it was. We'll get to that, but I don't believe it was Reverend Hughes's diary.
Gotcha.
Excuse me.
He's Sip.
I'm Sip. I'm Sip, right?
You're Sip.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I'm Sip. So it was at this point that Reverend Hughes contacted the Washington, D.C. Archbishop.
Oh.
Yeah. It was Archbishop Patrick A. O'Boyle.
Called his manager.
Essentially. Said, "I'm calling God." So he called Archbishop Patrick A. O'Boyle and asked for an exorcism. And at this point, there was enough there that the exorcism was granted. Which, in 1949, that was a pretty big deal for... it's always a big deal for the archdiocese to grant an exorcism.
That's right.
So, things were not very good. It was actually late February in 1949. Robbie was admitted to a Georgetown University hospital. And that's when Reverend Hughes began the rites of exorcism. When he was in the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, because exorcisms pretty much
I've heard something like this. Exorcisms never take place in like the place the demon wants it to, or something like that.
Well, not only that, a lot of the times, and this is some credit that I will give to the religious officials that conduct these exorcisms, that they do understand and they acknowledge the fact that exorcisms can get violent. Whether you believe in possession or not, pretty much every case of an exorcism, it gets very violent, very animated, very excited in the literal sense of the word. And they like to do them in or around hospitals just so that they do have that medical backup if necessary.
Gotcha.
Bones breaking, concussions from the seizing, smacking your head on the ground. They always like to have some sort of medical expert nearby.
That's fair.
So this also did not end well. It actually ended very, very poorly.
Oh. That's the opposite of well.
Yeah. Yes. Very much antithesis. During the rite of exorcism, they had strapped Robbie down to his hospital bed. Again, because of everything that goes with exorcisms, there's lots of convulsing. So they strapped him into the hospital bed. And during the exorcism, Robbie pulled his right arm out of the restraints, just broke the restraints, dug his hand into the mattress of his hospital bed, and pulled out one of the metal springs. Because again, in 1949, mattresses were a lot different than they are now.
Exactly a Serta.
So, right. He didn't have a sleep number. So he shoved his hand into the mattress and pulled out a metal spring. And he actually sliced Reverend Hughes from the inside of his elbow down to the inside of his wrist. He really, really jacked up the Reverend.
So he survived.
Yeah, Reverend Hughes did survive, but
That's a...
yeah, they say down the road, not across the street.
Right.
If,
Game over.
Yeah. But luckily, it wasn't super deep.
Okay.
It wasn't exactly superficial, but it wasn't deep enough to do any...
Capillary damage.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was...
No,
I don't want to say it wasn't life-threatening, because it, of course, was, but they were able to fix him. They were, Reverend Hughes was fine. Kind of. As fine as you can be after having a 14-year-old boy exhibit some crazy strength and...
Was that enough for him to bow out?
So...
Am I getting too far ahead?
Yeah, no. Reverend Hughes he deuces.
Damn.
But it was mainly for his own safety. Really, he didn't feel safe continuing the rites of exorcism. Which, I mean, I understand it from his point of view. Like, hey, I don't want to be, murked by a 14-year-old.
Next time it's my throat.
Right. But at the same time, if you're Robbie and his parents, you really got to start losing the faith at this point.
Right. God gave up on us.
Yeah.
It's a tough pill to swallow for us.
So, of course, after this, Carl and Phyllis Mannheim, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next. Where do we go from here? We tried the exorcism, that didn't work. What do we just shit out of luck now?
Right. Just start locking the doors at night.
Right. So they decided that they were going to move to St. Louis, where Aunt Harriet was from.
Right. Yeah. I tracked that.
Because she had told them that there was a thriving Lutheran community there. There's good universities. It was a good church. So they full send. They pack up, move to St. Louis immediately. Things continue to get worse. These people cannot catch a break.
That's the other thing, right? I mean, it's not always just places that get haunted, it's people.
Oh, of course. Yeah, 100%.
These activities follow people sometimes.
Yeah. And at this point, again, depending on what you believe, I tend to believe pretty far into this stuff. In case you didn't realize, I mean, we're a paranormal podcast, so there's got to be some beliefs here.
Get with it, guys.
But depending on what you believe, at this point, the entity was already in Robbie.
Okay.
You know, he was very much possessed at this point.
So there was no reason to believe that moving was going to solve anything anyway.
No, they didn't think that moving away was going to solve it. They actually they moved to St. Louis to get better help, essentially.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
So at the beginning of the move, you know, they got to St. Louis. Words started to appear scratched into Robbie's skin. Excuse me. With no logical explanation. You know, of course, naysayers, you poo-pooers out there, there's always the thought that, you know, he's doing it himself. Why?
Attention. What were the words? I don't want to debate the intentions of a 14-year-old boy.
At this point, the words were not disclosed.
Oh.
They weren't specified yet.
Jerk face. Butthead.
Well, a 14-year-old Lutheran boy in 1949.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Sucker.
I'm gonna try to scrub that from my memory. So, at this point, Robbie's parents contacted. I'm sorry. It's now March, in 1949. It's been a month with the move and everything. His parents contacted Reverend Walter S. Bowdern in St. Louis. So it was actually Walter S. Bowdern and Walter Halloran. These two religious officials, because I always forget the different names for the different, you know, religious orders. You know, are they priests? Are they fathers? Are they pastors? Are they preachers? I don't know. I know that Walter Bowdern was always referred to as Reverend, so I'm going to assume that Walter Halloran was also a Reverend.
Tell us in the comments.
But it was these two men, the two Walters, if you will, that made
Walter
the next
squared.
attempt. Yeah, W squared. That's too clunky. So the Walters were the ones who made the next attempt at an exorcism. So it obviously William Peter Blatty, the man who wrote the book and then subsequently the movie The Exorcist, obviously he exaggerated because he's trying to sell a good story. And I'm not going to get mad at that, you know.
I will burn it down.
So
Not really.
Yeah, please don't burn anything down. For copyright, for legal reasons, that was a joke. For legal reasons, that was a joke. So it was never as intense as it was portrayed in the movie. But shit hit the fan at this point. At this point, we do have a specific word that was getting carved into Robbie's skin.
You held out on us.
But, sorry to be a little anticlimactic, the word was hell. But it was over and over on his skin. It was all over the place, and it was repeated, and according to reports, it was always just the word hell. Robbie's body would, I mean, seizures don't.
It's an American demon.
Seizures don't do it justice.
Right.
I mean, his
fingernails.
He was very
flying around.
violently gyrating and spazzing out.
And you still don't spell hell.
Right. And I mean, just his body was contorting in such weird ways that it was very, very shocking, you know, at its core. it shocked you to your core the way he would contort, and his body would spin and twist and bend and crack and snap.
We get it.
Yeah. But here is one of the weirdest things, in my opinion, one of the weirdest things, and it was actually left out of the movie, which I think, probably in my opinion, this was one of the most terrifying details. Because I try to put myself there, in my head. I would have lost my mind at this point. In his sleep, Robbie would sing the song Old Man River in a high-pitched voice at tremendous volume. And that is not, tremendous was not my word. All right, that is the word that was used in multiple sources.
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with the song Old Man River. How does it go?
Old Man River. That's the only lyric I know.
But in a high-pitched voice, so it was really like, Old Man River!
Right. But very high-pitched and at, again, quote-unquote, tremendous volume. He would also sing the song Swanee, but I don't know that song.
Womp womp.
Yeah, but I know Old Man River. And I don't know, if a 14-year-old boy who was doing exhibiting all these other signs just randomly started singing that in his sleep.
Do we know when Old River came out?
Volume. No, I don't.
We'll put that at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah,
that could be interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think, but I feel like that's one of those older songs, like in 1800s. I feel. I don't know.
Feel it in my heart.
But, so, at this point, the rites of exorcism, which a lot of people don't really know. People think of an exorcism and they think it's a one and done kind of thing, but there are rites. There's a sequence. And it's essentially like putting a puzzle together.
Like a checklist.
Right. You have to do
B,
right,
step
exactly.
C, IKEA furniture.
Yes. So the Walters were still doing the rites, and it does take some time. And Robbie just his reactions at every session were just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And at one point during one of the rites of exorcism, Robbie threw a punch so hard that he broke Reverend Halloran's nose. And again, 14-year-old boy. Average 14-year-old boy, I should specify. Again, he wasn't, some yoked ass,
Captain America before
right.
the serum.
He wasn't a power lifter or anything, but he still threw a punch so hard with so much force that he broke Reverend Halloran's nose.
Did he quit?
And no, the Walters stuck it out.
Oh, okay.
They did often have help though, because routinely it would take 4 grown men to hold Robbie down while they performed the exorcisms. He was
One
fighting
for
back, essentially. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And he was fighting back with so much force and so much vigor that they needed 4 grown men to hold down this 14-year-old boy,
right.
which is just
supernatural.
At its very core. I mean, there's really no logical explanation why it should take that many grown men.
How many grown men do you think it would take to hold you down?
Probably 4.
So you think you had the power of a fully grown 30-year-old man?
Right. I'm a 30-year-old man. I weigh 300 plus pounds. I've got a lot of ass to put behind some. I got a lot of weight to throw around. I am not.
For perspective.
Right.
Just
I am not, as it turns out, a 14-year-old boy.
Right.
And I feel like four men to hold me down, I feel is accurate. I'm a relatively strong dude, but a 14-year-old boy, it's mind-blowing. Okay? when they would have lulls in, or when Robbie would have lulls in the
activity.
Yeah, when he had moments where he was himself, quote unquote, and when he was himself, he would actually tell the reverends that he was fighting a huge red demon who felt slimy and very powerful, and those were Robbie's words.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, he said
slimy.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting detail as well.
So maybe hell's not hot. I wouldn't imagine you get a lot of slime with.
Well, that's the thing. He would also say that this demon was trying to stop him from climbing out of a fiery pit. That's what he saw. Is he was trying to climb out of a fiery pit, and it was a very powerful, slimy red demon that was trying to stop him from doing it. Yeah, stomping on his fingers as he was trying to pull himself up.
Get back in the fiery water.
Excuse me. And I mean, things kept with this pattern for a while throughout most of the rites of exorcism. The Walters would start the rites. Robbie would freak out, get violent, convulse, gyrate, and I dislike the word gyrate, like on a visceral level.
It's like moist.
But I don't have a problem with moist. But like,
gyrate.
Gyrate. I don't know. It just invokes it invokes my fight or flight. I don't like the word gyrate.
Gyros.
It's actually pronounced hero. But so that's how pretty much every session would turn out until mid-April.
Ooh.
So this
Another
was
month later.
Right. About 5 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
These sessions were taking place, and so by mid-April, Robbie, the signs of the possession, the violence started to take a downturn. The convulsions started to stop.
Positive sign.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. He was himself more often than not.
Am I wrong for being not trustworthy of this situation?
No, this is actually the beginning of the end.
Before the storm.
Yeah, no. The storm's over. This is the beginning of the calm after the storm.
Okay.
Yeah, the by all rights, no pun intended, the rites of exorcism had worked. They accomplished what they set out to accomplish. So by the end of April, it was done. Robbie showed no more signs. He was fully himself. He had some memories of emotions from throughout the exorcisms, but there was no concrete. He didn't have specific memories.
So he didn't remember like being back in the fiery pit or anything like that?
Well, no, I believe he still remembered that, but I mean the rites of exorcisms themselves.
Got it.
He didn't have any
Well, he wasn't
real
present
concrete
for it,
memories. Yeah, essentially. So, on a slightly sad note, Reverend Walter Bowdern, first off, he never spoke publicly about what happened. And he actually quite literally took it to his grave. Reverend Bowdern died in 1983. So, I actually want to end the episode. This is the end. I mean, Robbie lived. The demon was fully expelled.
God 1, devil 0. Amen. Happy ending.
It is a happy ending, but at this point, I'd like to end the episode with an excerpt from the Archbishop, or not the Archbishop. I'm sorry, but what was his name? I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. The bishop of the church, St. James Catholic Church, St. James Catholic Church.
Follow the bouncing ball.
Right. Let's do a sing-along now. I want to end with an excerpt from the bishop's diary. This is the bishop that kept the diary of everything that was going on.
And this is a Walter, I assume? The second Walter?
Yes, Howard. At 10:45 p.m., I quote, at 10:45 p.m., the most striking event of the evening occurred. R was in a seizure but lay calm. Was in a seizure but lay calm now. In clear, commanding tones and with dignity, a voice broke into the prayers. The following is an accurate quotation. Satan, Satan, I am Saint Michael, and I command you, Satan, and the other evil spirits to leave the body in the name of Dominus, immediately, now, now, now. Then there were the most violent contortions of the entire period of exorcism, that is, since March 16th. Perhaps this was the fight to the finish. The reverends were weary and sore physically from the exertion. After 7 or 8 minutes of violence, R, in a tone of complete relief, said he's gone. Immediately, R came back to normal and said he felt fine. R now explained what he saw. He said there was a brilliant white light, and in that light stood a very beautiful man with flowing wavy hair that blew in the breeze. He wore a white robe that fitted close to his body. The material gave the impression of scales. Only the upper half of the body of this man was visible to R. In his right hand he held up a wavy and fiery sword. With his left hand he pointed down to a pit or cave. R said he saw the devil standing in the cave. R felt the heat from the cave and saw the flames. First the devil fought, resisting the angel and laughing diabolically. Then the angel smiled at R and spoke, but R heard only one word, Dominus. As the angel spoke, the devil and about 10 of his helpers ran back into the fire of the cave. After the devil disappeared, the letters S-P-I-T-E, spite, appeared on the bars of the cave. As the devils disappeared into the pit, R felt a pulling or tugging in the region of his stomach. As the devils disappeared, he felt a snapping, and then felt relaxed completely. He said that this was the most relaxed feeling he had had since the entire experience began in January. R related his visual experience at 11 p.m. So that was a time period of 15 minutes. The whole ending of essentially the entire saga. So that is the real life story of William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist.
That was intense, though.
It was.
That was like.
And of course, I'll link all of my sources and the excerpt of the Reverend's diary in the show notes.
It's like Neo plugging into the Matrix
Right,
to go fight Smith. Like.
Yeah. Yep.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, that's it. I mean,
if you like the stories, give that like button a little boop. Subscribe. More stories coming at you.
Do what you got to do. Let us know if you like this, and we'll keep doing this. That's our goal. We want to do this for you.
I love you. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.